So today we're going to talk about the topic of what is spiritual practice. So this is a topic that obviously it's can be a intricate conversation. It's not necessarily something that can be answered with one short video. But what I'm going to suggest here is at least what will commonly be spiritual practice, what it tends to mostly fall into, not necessarily completely, because it's not a one-size-fits-all, but mostly. Okay, so what I have found is that spiritual practice mostly falls into the category of connecting to presence, connecting to that presence that's within, that we feel as consciousness, as I amness, that life force presence, and then that presence that we can sense that's everywhere as God, the infinite intelligence, the divine, that's in everything and everywhere. So connecting with that presence as the step one. The step two part of spiritual practice tends to be then bringing awareness to negative thought patterns. Okay, it tends to be, it's like so many times we want to think that it's just about, having faith, believing, positive, hope, optimism. But it tends to be that if we're honest and we look in our hearts, there's those negative thought patterns that are kind of hanging out there. Even if it's just something that's still nagging at us, or it can go from that to something, greater and grander, to, some really deep patterns that block us in a very significant way. So that's the step two, is going in and connecting and bringing awareness to negative thought patterns and not judging them, bringing awareness to them, and then clearing them out as sort of like the next step along the way, going in and clearing those patterns out, clearing them, releasing them through different things. Like you can use the tapping, the EFT tapping. You can use prayer itself to clear out negative thought patterns. Sometimes, you can even do writing and things like that. So some type of clearing approach. Let's say for the sake of this video, we'll focus mostly on the tapping and doing prayer that involves connecting and just kind of clearing and releasing negative thought patterns, which can be done as a technique, and you can see that it can very intentionally release things where you feel a difference from minute to minute. So the clearing, and then the next step in all this tends to be then the sort of building up the positive, the building up the faith, the love, the oneness, the hope, the optimism. That tends to be the next step in all of this. So that's what I have found that it usually falls into of spiritual practice. And it's just the process of constantly going back to those steps and doing that from day to day. The connecting, the clearing, the bringing awareness to the pattern, and then building the faith up. It tends to keep going back to that over and over and over. And that seems to be the process that we're constantly doing. What I find we keep going back to the most. So, a lot of times people go, well, what is spiritual practice? What does that even mean? And that's why I wanted to make this video, to cover what I believe, at least it mostly means. Maybe not completely, but mostly, it mostly falls into these steps. And as we follow these steps of the spiritual practice, we tend to find that our vibration goes up higher. We release things, and that kind of brings more like light flowing through us. We find ourselves more connected, more clarity, like that we're on kind of like, let's say, a higher frequency. Okay, and that is what how it tends to happen. Is it not so much just jumping in and being positive and believing. It tends to be going through those steps of connecting and then releasing, and then building it up. Connecting, releasing, then building it up. That's what seems to be the sequence with it. So okay, so I hope that clarified some things. Thanks.